Our Sixth Grade Sugar Babies by E. Bunting. Copyright 1990. Chapter 8. A long white Lincoln Continental that must belong to one of Mom's clients was parked in our driveway. Mom kidded that it was clients like that who brought a touch of class to our neighborhood. I got my bike from the garage and maneuvered it out. Thunk waited by our side patio, and I sensed his impatience, so I hurried like crazy. "Ready!" I gasped, an astronaut 2 seconds before blast-off. Thunk was looking seriously gorgeous. He was wearing khaki shorts and a jeans jacket with the sleeves cut out so the armholes were nice and raggedy. The jacket buttons were all open in a very macho way, and he had his yellow plastic bike chain over one shoulder and across his chest, like a bandit's belt of bullets. If I was going to be picky, I'd have said his shorts were a bit long and droopy. Otherwise, he was perfect. "Let's go," he said. I rode closest to the curb, making sure I was between him and any sight of Babe. As we passed Ophelia's house, we saw her backing her car out of their driveway. Her father waved her off, probably to the grocery store. She used to take him with her, but he got in the way of other shoppers, standing in the aisles giving out weather forecasts, so now she left him home, but never for long. Thunk and I sped past, getting our share of waves. I told myself I wouldn't look back for a last glimpse of Babe, but I did. All I could see was the basket handle and the pale curve of the wicker side. That was enough to make me feel awful. What was I doing? This wasn't right. I shouldn't be leaving her like this. In the first place, I was on my honor, and in the second place, what kind of mother would forsake her child? "Are you coming or what?" Thunk called impatiently. He was already 3 houses ahead. "Just a sec," I yelled. "I have to tell Mr. Ambrose something." As far away as he was, I could still see that Thunk was getting mad. Probably when you looked the way he looked, girls didn't keep you waiting. He was muttering something and tossing his head in a can-you-believe-it kind of way, but I couldn't hear, which was just as well. I swung back to Mr. Ambrose. "Look," I whispered. "That's my baby there in the basket." I glanced quickly at Thunk and then risked pointing at Babe. "See her? Will you look after her till I get back?" Mr. Ambrose shuffled uncertainly and rubbed his hands together. "Could be warm tomorrow," he said. 75 degrees wouldn't surprise me. No, sir. I guess it might make it to 75. "I gotta go, Vicki," Thunk called. "See you." "Wait, I'm coming." And to Mr. Ambrose I said one last time, "Look after her." Thunk was zigzagging back and forth across the street. "I'm in a hurry, you know," he said as I puffed up beside him. "I know, I'm sorry, but that was important." To show how apologetic I was, I pedaled furiously, getting ahead of him, calling, "This way! Cross over here!" I roared us through the alley behind Eddie's Market, across the bakery parking lot, under the awning of the pizza parlor and the photography shop, and all the time I was thinking, can this be real? Thunk and I? It was like a dream come true. It was definitely the thrill of a lifetime, whether cute listed it or not. I could have ridden beside him all the way to China, but that was not where we were going. "We're here," I said triumphantly. "Our library is very pretty, a peaceful island of shady lawns and trees right in the middle of all that traffic. There's an outside patio where doves coo and where hummingbirds come to drink from a bottle of bright red nectar. About once every 2 years there are rumblings that the library is going to be knocked down and a mini-mall put up in its place. Then a whole bunch of us, Mrs. Coles and Mrs. Ting from our street, and the Sobols, who own Thunk's house, and scads of students from the college, take petitions around. We picket, too. Mom and I have carried so many signs that say save our library that I feel I partly own it. I've saved it so many times. "It's nice, isn't it?" I asked Thunk. "See the carvings above the door? A really famous artist designed those. His name was Mr. Doolittle, but he did a lot." "Really?" Thunk said. I was glad he at least took time to look. The Mitchell's dog was sleeping by the bike rack in front, and he opened his eyes and waved his tail at us. The Mitchells have a very free-traveling dog. He has picketed with us a couple of times, so he probably thinks he owns the library, too. Thunk parked his bike, and I parked mine beside it. He whipped his chain from around his chest. "Maybe you could lock both bikes together," I suggested. Thunk looked surprised. "Are you coming in?" "Well, sure. had he expected? That I'd lead him here like an Indian scout and slink away into the sunset? I'm going to be a while, he said, frowning. I thought fleetingly of Babe and of the fact that I hadn't even left Mom a gone to the library note. But both thoughts came and went quickly. That's okay, I said. I have stuff to do too. Maybe I could call Mom from the phone around back, and I'd ask her if she could go get Babe. Wait. She'd think I hadn't been very responsible leaving my sugar baby there. She might even say, "What happened to your word of honor?" Or, "So that's the way you plan on looking after Keiko, is it? Remember, there'll be no Mom in Iowa when you get yourself into a mess." That was silly, of course. I'd never leave Keiko behind a palm tree. But still, better not call. Mom had that Lincoln Continental person there anyway, and she might not notice I wasn't home. I stared down at Thunk, who was putting the yellow chain around our wheels. The beginnings of his nice shoulders were daringly revealed by the sleeveless jean jacket. I decided Ellie had picked the perfect name for him. Some terrific hunk. I fixed my hat, running my finger around the brim to check that one of my ears hadn't popped out. My ears will do that. Okay, Thunk straightened and gave me that nice toothy smile. He had a new little bump on his chin, but it didn't look that bad. Okay, I said, smiling pretty toothily myself. The inside of the library was dim and smelled sweet, like bubble gum. In the hopes that there'd be some kids from Tillman there, I removed my glasses so I could see and also be seen, with Thunk. And the first person I saw was Cynthia Sanders. The second was horrible Harry Hogan. They were at the same table even, along with a woman with corkscrew hair and hoop earrings big enough for a tiger to jump through. Thunk was heading for the only empty chair at the table. "Hi, Cynthia," he said, plopping himself down. "Sorry I'm late." Late? Oh, no, he'd been coming to see her. That's why he'd been in such a hurry. I had been just an Indian scout. All at once I felt as droopy as Thunk's shorts. Horrible Harry Hogan looked up, of course. So did Cynthia, who said, "Hi, Sam. Hi, Vicki. Oh, shoot. I got your Beauty and the Beast program signed, but I left it in my locker. Sorry." Sam? Thunk was Sam? That's okay, I told Cynthia. Thanks. Sam Shub. It had a great sound. But I knew that nevertheless Sam would be Thunk to me forever. "What Beauty and the Beast program?" Horrible Harry Hogan asked with interest. "Last year's." "What do you want with last year's program for?" he asked. "Something," I said. "Something," he repeated. I could have bopped him. Weren't things bad enough? Why did he have to be here? "Don't do that to Vicki," Cynthia Sanders told him. "Echoing like that drives people crazy. The last time I heard you do that was to Linda Gonzalez, and we both know why." She nudged Harry Hogan and made little kissing sounds. "Quit it, Cynthia." Harry Hogan gave Cynthia a nudge back and shot me a nervous look. I couldn't figure what was going on, and I especially couldn't figure how Cynthia and Harry Hogan seemed to be on such friendly nudging terms. "Do you want me to tell Vicki why you teased Linda?" Cynthia asked. "You do that and you're a deep yogurt," Harry Hogan said, and they grinned and nudged each other again. I tried to keep my mouth from dropping open. Horrible Harry Hogan and beautiful Cynthia Sanders had kidding conversations. It was beyond belief. "I didn't know you and Harry Hogan were, friends, Cynthia," I said. "Sure, we live next door to each other." "Worse luck," Horrible Harry added. Now he was looking carefully at me. "Where's Babe?" "Oh, I left her with someone," I said. "Your mom?" I noticed that the black boot box, size 15D, that was Dracula's bed, was parked on the floor beside Horrible Harry's chair, lid tightly in place. "No, not with my mom," I said. "With a neighbor, sort of a grandfather person." I was afraid to look at Thunk in case he'd ask, "Who did you leave?" And I'd have to explain about sugar babies after all. But he didn't ask. He was too absorbed with Cynthia. "We're doing a report together, Sam and I," Cynthia said, and then added, "Hey, maybe Vicki wanted to sit there. You took the only seat, Sam." The woman with the corkscrew hair said, "I can move if the four of you want to sit together." But I quickly said, "Thanks, but it's okay. I have to look for a book. I'm not staying. See you guys." I went at top speed to the nearest bookshelves and got myself behind them. How awful! Imagine sitting with the three of them. And then I'd been so dumb to think Thunk wanted to go somewhere with me. Had I looked really jazzed about it? Had I looked like a dweeb? I peered around the edge of the bookshelves and saw him bestowing this dazzle of a smile on Cynthia. How could she just sit there? If Thunk looked at me like that, I'd be jumping up and down. But if Cynthia jumped up and down for every boy who looked at her, she'd be exhausted. And for this I'd left Babe. My eyes felt weird, and I fished my glasses out of my pocket and put them on. Well, I'd just sneak out now and disappear, maybe forever. Except my bike was hooked to Thunk's. So I'd go back and say, okay, I got the information I came for. Can you unhook my bike, please, Thunk? Sam. There was a fat red book at eye level. I pulled it off the shelf, opened a page, and read, "It is just 200 years ago that Newton closed his eyes." The author was Einstein, so that ought to be all right. I shelved the book back again in its space, glued on a smile, and walked back to the table. Thunk and Cynthia leaned over her notebook. Horrible Harry Hogan was writing in our spelling workbook, probably doing his homework. The lady seemed to be copying down a recipe from a magazine. The tip of her tongue was stuck out between her lips. None of them looked up, and I had to give a little cough. "Cool sunglasses," Harry Hogan said at once. "Yeah, well," I tapped the edge of the table. "I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sam, but I need to get my bike." "Your bike?" He didn't even remember that much about us. "It's locked with yours," I said. "I'm ready to go. I got the information about Newton." "Already?" Cynthia sounded amazed. "That was fast." Today she was wearing a white tunic thing and white leggings. If she'd had a turban, she could have been one of those religious people. But I had to admit she looked really superior. "It was just 200 years ago that Newton closed his eyes," I said. My glasses were slipping, probably because I'd gone all sweaty. I pushed them back up. Oh, how I wished Ellie was here. Ellie would have helped me get through this. "Was Newton the guy who slept so long and when he woke up everything had changed?" Harry Hogan asked. "That was Rip Van Winkle, you zombo," Cynthia told him. "So, can I get my bike?" I asked Thunk. "Sure." I started for the door. "You'd better take good care of Babe," Harry Hogan called after me, and I almost died. Had he guessed? He couldn't have. "Don't forget to guard the doors and windows after sunset," he called. "The Count is coming." And I realized he was just warning me about Dracula. Thank goodness. Thunk and I were both hurrying over the sun-warmed grass now. Thunk probably desperate to get back to Cynthia, me to get away from here, to get back to Babe. The Mitchell's dog still dozed in the sun. This time he didn't even open his eyes. They stayed closed, tight as Newton's. Thunk unchained our bikes. I thought separating them like that was probably symbolic, but I didn't have time to think about it now. "There you go." He gave me that smile, but it wasn't the same one as he gave Cynthia. He wasn't really behind this one. "Thanks," I said, and I was gone, cycling fast as I could under the awnings, through the parking lot, along the alley at the back of Eddie's Market. There's a mailbox on our corner, and Thunk's little brother and the Garcia kid were hiding on the other side of it. They both had water pistols now, and they leaped in my direction, squirting furiously. Fortunately, I saw them coming and veered out of range. The streams missed me by inches. "You're goofy looking in that hat and stuff," the little twerp yelled. "Goofy looking yourself," I yelled back, standing straight on the pedals so I could see down our tree-shadowed street. Oh, good, there was Mr. Ambrose, exactly where I'd left him. Ophelia's car wasn't in their driveway, so I couldn't have been gone that long. 25 minutes or so. Mr. Ambrose waved, and I waved back. I couldn't see the basket yet, but I was still pretty far away. Closer, closer. Now I could see perfectly. I could see that the basket was gone. Chapter 9. I threw my bike on the boulevard and ran around to the back of the palm tree. All I saw was flattened long grass, the snuggle nest where my basket had been, but wasn't now. Mr. Ambrose paid no attention to me. He was busy waving to Mrs. Coles and Mrs. Ting, who were out for their afternoon walk, striding by on the opposite sidewalk. I tugged at his sleeve to get his attention. "Where's my sugar baby?" He blinked nervously at me, and the smile quivered. "Going to be nice tomorrow," he said. "Having a spell of sunshine. Yes, sir." I changed my grip to his arm. "Did you move, babe? Where is she?" 75 degrees, he said. "I wouldn't be surprised." Oh, criminy! If only he could tell me! Maybe he'd taken Babe inside. Sure, he probably had. Ophelia's door is always open so her father can go in and out when he wants to. I ran up the path and leaped the 3 steps to the porch. "I'm going inside, okay?" I called back to Mr. Ambrose. He had his back to me, watching a Mary Plummer's truck that had pulled to a stop across the street in front of Thunk's house. I pushed open the door. The living room was cool and shady, smelling of the roses from Ophelia's garden. A bowl of them spilled petals on the top of the piano. No sugar baby here. Should I go through and check out the bedrooms? I couldn't. That would be too nervy. I'd have to wait till Ophelia came home and ask her, but already I had this horrible, empty feeling. Babe was gone. I came slowly back down the path. Ophelia's ginger cat, Stumpy, came from under a bush to hiss at me and glare with yellow eyes. Stumpy and I dislike each other, and usually I hiss back, but today I didn't have the strength. I ran up to the mailbox where Thunk's little brother and his friend still lay in ambush. "Did either of you 2 guys take a basket I left behind the palm tree?" "A basket?" The Garcia kid wrinkled his face in disgust. "Baskets are for girls." Thunk's little brother spread his legs apart and stared up at me. "Where'd you get those funky glasses, anyway?" "Never mind," I said. He examined his water pistol and then me with a crafty look, and I knew he was just about to unload the rest of the water right into my face. "If you shoot that thing at me, you're dead meat," I warned. They hadn't taken Babe. I could tell. Slowly I walked back, checking behind every bush and every piece of shrubbery. I kicked through ivy, trailed a searching hand through ice plant. There was no basket anywhere. And all the time thoughts mushed around inside my head. I'd have to go home and tell Mom what I'd done. "I can't believe you just went off like that and left Babe behind," she'd say. "Weren't you on your honor to take her with you everywhere you went? I don't care that it was because the cute new boy from across the street asked you to go with him to the library. What kind of reason is that? Don't talk to me about responsibility, Victoria." And tomorrow I'd be the only childless parent in Mrs. Oda's class. I'd have to confess. And I'd get an F. My first F ever. Mrs. Oda wouldn't say she was disappointed in me, but I'd know. And horrible Harry Hogan would give that hyena laugh of his. "Miss Goody-Goody Victoria Charlip. Oh, wow. I thought you said you left her with your grandfather." Keiko, Iowa, everything drifted slowly in front of my eyes. No hope now. All gone. And why was I walking along here anyway, checking out people's yards? Who'd take Babe and move her? It didn't make sense. I peered through a crack in the fence of the corner house where the minister and his wife live. Their neat, no-nonsense yard was empty. No Babe. Of course not. I leaned against the sun-worn fence for a minute. Maybe I should put a lost and found notice on every tree. I'd offer a reward. But if I put up notices, everyone would know I'd lost Babe. Mr. Ambrose saw me coming and waved frantically, as if he hadn't laid eyes on me for a month at least. I decided to try asking him one more time. "Listen, did you see somebody take warm for March?" he said. "Going to get warmer, too." For the first time ever, I wanted to shake him. "My baby's lost and it's your fault. You didn't take care of her properly." I'd left Babe in his care for what, a half hour? He was a grown man, for heaven's sake. Wouldn't you think... Mr. Ambrose's face twisted up. Beads of perspiration gleamed on his forehead. "I think it might storm," he said, stammering a bit, his chin still moving up and down when the words stopped. And then I stood there, feeling lost myself. Lost and rotten. "I'm sorry," I began. I grabbed a hold of his hand. "Oh, Mr. Ambrose, I'm sorry. It was nobody's fault but mine. I thought maybe Thunk liked me, and that was why he wanted me to go with him, but of course he didn't. He likes Cynthia Sanders. She's so pretty, beautiful. Not much wonder he likes her." Mr. Ambrose stared over my head. I'd heard him a lot, I could tell. He was my best grown-up friend, and I'd said all those horrible things. An AT&T telephone van came rattling down the street, and Mr. Ambrose turned. I thought he was getting set to wave, but he didn't. Instead, he took off his glasses, rubbed them across the front of his shirt, put them on again. His shoulders sagged. And then I saw Ophelia's station wagon making the turn at the end of the block. I'd wait and ask her if she knew anything about Babe. But how would she know? She'd been gone. Anyway, I didn't want to face her after being so mean to her father. I picked up my bike and headed for home. Inside, I could hear the hum of voices coming from Mom's office. I tiptoed past and ran upstairs. The little red lacquered box on my dresser had $7.35 in it. I think I was just checking to see how big a reward I could offer. I think that's what I was doing. Instead, I took $3 and ran back downstairs. Even as I wrote the note to leave on the kitchen table for Mom, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I don't think I was sure. But why was I slipping out, then, getting on my bike and taking off again? Usually I can ride to Gertminian's market in 10 minutes. It took me longer today because I went the long way around, even doubling back 1 block. Maybe I needed time to make up my mind, or change it. Maybe I was afraid I'd be seen. I couldn't seem to decide why I was doing anything. Mr. Gertminian knows me and Mom well. His little market is so close we go there a lot. Actually, Eddie's up by the library is closer, but he wasn't going back that way again. Today, Mr. Gertminian's shades were drawn against the sun, and one of the placards on the window had fallen down so it hung by one corner. Avocados, 4 for $1. Inside, Mr. Gertminian, fat and white-aproned, leaned behind the counter reading the sports section of the Star News. "Hello, Tricky Vicki," he said. Oh no, I almost stopped breathing. What did he know? Did he suspect? And then I remembered. Mr. Gertminian calls me Tricky Vicki sometimes because it rhymes. Ellie said she told him her name was Eleanor when he asked, because there are too many awful words that rhyme with Ellie. She didn't want to get him started. It's funny, I'd never thought much about Tricky Vicki before, but I was thinking about it now as I checked out all the aisles in case someone from Tillman might be here. But there was only a lady with a little girl who was whining for gum or licorice or a popsicle, and saying over and over, "I want! I want!" For some reason I was saying it too. I want! I want! Here was the shelf. I pulled my hat lower over my sunglasses before I picked out a 5-pound bag of sugar and carried it to the cash register. Chapter 10. The Lincoln Continental was gone from our driveway. In its place was a Honda Accord with roof racks and a bumper sticker that said, "I'd rather be surfing." Some of Mom's clients are more interesting than others. I slid past the office door, got Mom's sewing box and the rest of the faded camp t-shirt that I'd shoved back in the rag bag, and tiptoed upstairs. By the time I heard our front door open and close and Mom calling, "Bye, John," I had Babe, too, sewn into her new skin, and I'd used the face pattern and my crayons to change her into a person. When Mom came up into my room, I was crouched by my toy box, searching for the rest of the Cabbage Patch doll clothes. "Well," Mom gave Babe no more than a passing glance, "I see your child is getting a new outfit." "Yep." I pulled a little yellow skirt and a green vest with yellow flowers out from the toy chest. "There's a yellow blouse to go under this somewhere, but since she doesn't have arms, I don't think I'll bother." For some reason it was hard for me to look at Mom, but I could tell she was looking at me. "Vicki, honey, do you feel all right? You're flushed." She came across and put her hand against my cheek, her voice so soft and loving I wanted to bawl. She was being nice to me, and I was such a cheat. "I'm okay." I jerked my head away, stood, and walked to my dresser. I'd left the lid off my little red money box, and I set it back on. In the mirror I saw myself, still wearing the stupid hat. Had I always had such small, shifty eyes? Mom sat on my bed and patted the place beside her. "Come sit for a minute, love. I want to talk to you." My heart did that little pause thing, then raced ahead of itself. What did she want? I looked quickly at Babe and away. There was no difference, was there? Mom couldn't know. Awful to feel so guilty. I sat carefully beside her, smoothing the yellow Cabbage Patch doll skirt across my knees, looking at it with great concentration. "Your father called," Mom said. "Oh." He wanted to know if I'd made a decision yet about letting you go to take care of Keiko. I told him not yet. I told him I promised you that I'd think about it. I said I'd let him know on Monday. I was smoothing and smoothing the doll skirt. It was terribly wrinkled. Maybe I'd have to iron it. It was so little, though. Wouldn't it be hard to iron? Would it fit over the board? I explained to him about Babe and how you said if you did a good job with her, it should qualify you for Keiko. Mom smiled, but I couldn't make myself smile back. Your dad said he was sure you'd do a good job. She paused. I told him that he should line up someone else just in case I don't change my mind. Her hand covered mine. Can you understand my thinking on this, Vicki? My worry for you? You're just a little girl yourself. I nodded. I understand. You do? Mom sounded surprised and pleased. After all the things I'd said, she must be wondering why I was so reasonable now. I'm glad. However, she leaned over and picked up Babe too. We'll still keep the lines of communication open, you and I. That's a promise. Your father says that every night Keiko asks when you're coming. So I know seeing you again means a lot to her too. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. I just wanted you to know that the love is there on her side too. I'm glad you told me. I lifted my head for the first time and stared out the window, thinking about Keiko in her little bed, the butterfly mobile above her head turning in drifts of orange and yellow. Dad had made it for her, painting the butterflies, real in every detail. He would have finished reading her Goldilocks, the way he did every night, and I blinked. Did Dad read to me when I was little, Mom? Mom nodded. He was a nice father in his way. He was just too young, Vicki, and not ready to be married, certainly not ready to have a baby. We were both too young. She ran her hand across Babe, too. You can see yourself just a little how hard it is to be on duty with a baby 24 hours a day. I bit my lip. If only she knew. So Dad just took off? I asked quickly. Vicki, there are people who are so good at what they do, so anxious to do it better, so obsessed, that they resent any other demands on their time or their lives. Your father was like that about his painting. But he got married again, and they had Keiko. Mom smiled. He's older. He probably found out that even geniuses get lonely. You think Dad's a genius, Mom? Not really. And I think he found that out, too. It was probably very hard for him. Well, when he discovered all those things, that he was lonely and wasn't a genius, why didn't he come back to us? We were here. Oh, honey, Mom leaned forward and laid her cheek against my hair. Edges don't fit together that way, or hardly ever. Life is too complicated. For one thing, he found Yoshi. She shares his interests. And I'm glad he didn't come back to us. I've changed too. I wouldn't have wanted him. I'm sorry, honey, but that's the truth. She kissed my forehead. But I've always wanted you. And then my heart began racing again. Mom was holding Babe on her lap, and I realized I'd forgotten that the original Babe had a face on the back of her head as well as on the front. This Babe hadn't. Any second now, Mom might turn her around and she'd see, and she'd frown and say, But didn't she have a face in the back, too? I thought. I grabbed Babe and laid her face up on the bed, draping the skirt and top over her pinkness. See, this is going to be a wonderful fit. Lucky her. Probably a perfect size 1/2, Mom said, smiling, and I could tell she was glad to be finished with our talk about Dad. Talks about Dad are always hard. I was glad, too. This terrible thought had come to me. Dad had left me. I'd left Babe. Not that the two things were the same, but... So, bring Babe down with you when you get her dressed, Mom said. There's a chicken casserole that I popped into the oven between clients, and it ought to be just about ready. You and Babe can set the table. The doorbell rang. Who on earth? Mom glanced at her watch. I don't have any appointments tonight. Whoever it is, I'll just be a minute. Believe me, I've worked hard enough today. You go ahead and set the table and make the salad, will you? I heard her talking to someone at the door as I wriggled Babe too into the yellow skirt. How awful that had been. And I'd have to give Babe too a second face right away, because if Mom had noticed, what would I have said? Ellie might notice too, and what would Ellie say? She hated sneaky people. Ellie was so honest she once found 2 pennies on the sidewalk outside school and took them into the office. She would never believe I'd do something like this. I was her friend. Why was I doing it anyway? I wasn't sure, but already I felt trapped and suffocated. I stared down at Babe Two's rosebud mouth and red crayon curls. "Vicki, can you come here a minute, please?" That was Mom calling from downstairs. I cradled Babe carefully in my arms. See what a good, conscientious, never leave her alone mother I am? Ophelia was in the hall with Mom. Ophelia? What was she doing here? All the guilt bubbled inside me again. Had Mr. Ambrose told her something after all? Babe too grew heavier and heavier, and my steps got slower and slower. "You found her," Ophelia would say. "I'm so glad. My dad was so worried." Or worse, what if she'd discovered the real Babe, upstairs in her house maybe, and she'd say, "What's that you've got? Have you got two babies? I found one and—" I gripped the stair rail. Ophelia and Mom were both looking up at me. "Vicki," Mom said, "Ophelia can't find her father. She wonders if you've seen him." "I know you talked to him on the way home from school," Ophelia said. "I saw you as I was coming back from the market. Did he seem agitated to you?" Agitated, in a state of anxiety. We'd had it in spelling. It could also mean turning around and around, as in a washer, as in my stomach right now. My throat was so dry I could hardly swallow, and I needed to swallow before I could speak. "No," I whispered. "He wasn't agitated." "He seemed really upset to me." Ophelia was squeezing her hands together in front of her, just the way her father had done when I said, her face looked small and tight. Did you check up on California Boulevard?" I asked, watching her hands pull at each other, watching and trying to make myself look somewhere else. Once before, Mr. Ambrose had disappeared, and Ophelia had found him standing in the middle of a boulevard with traffic screeching around him while he waved and smiled. She'd brought him home and tried to explain to him why it wasn't a good idea to go where there was traffic. "He's not there. I've searched everywhere. I can't imagine." Ophelia's face crumpled up. Mom gathered her in a hug. "We'll find him, Ophelia. We will. Have you asked any of the other neighbors?" Ophelia shook her head against Mom's shoulder. "I just came here. He and Vicki are such good friends." I was clutching the sugar baby so tightly that one of the seams I'd just sewn up split with a little plop. I set her down on the bottom step. "Vicki," Mom said in a calm, reassuring way, "get on the phone and call Mrs. Ting and Mrs. Coles and the rest of the neighbors. Someone may have seen him." "He's got identification," Ophelia said as if talking to herself. "Everything's in his wallet. If anything happened, wouldn't someone call? My phone number's in there." "Of course someone would call." Mom had her arm around Ophelia as she steered her toward a chair in the kitchen. Ophelia pulled away. "I've got to go home. What if someone's trying to reach me right now?" "I'll come with you," Mom said. "Do you still want me to call people?" I asked. I'd never been so frightened in my life. Mr. Ambrose, nice, sweet Mr. Ambrose. Had I done this? Had I been so rotten I'd made him run away? Should I tell? But I'd said I was sorry. Mr. Ambrose and I had made up. "Go ahead and make the call, sweetie. It can't hurt," Mom said, and then Ophelia grabbed her arm. "Do you think I should call the police? They found him when he was lost that time before." "Maybe that would be best," Mom said. "It might be safest." The police? Worse and worse. I dropped the phone with a clatter against the wall. "Sorry," I muttered. "I'll call them from Ophelia's," Mom whispered, and then she took Ophelia home while I began dialing all our neighbors, Mrs. Ting and Mrs. Coles, the minister on the corner, and the dentist who lives in the house with the blue trim, and Mrs. Birch, who writes poetry and does sculptings of horses and cowboys. Everyone knew Mr. Ambrose. No one had seen him. All this because I'd wanted Thunk to like me. And in the end he hadn't even wanted our bikes to be chained together. Mom had left the front door open, and I was in the middle of one of the calls when I looked outside and saw a black and white police car cruising slowly past. They'd come. Chapter 11. All the neighbors had seen Mr. Ambrose earlier in his usual spot, waving and smiling. They hadn't seen him since. "You were talking to him when we passed this afternoon," Mr. Coles said to me. "He didn't seem any different, did he?" I curled and uncurled the telephone cord on my wrist. That's what Ophelia had asked. What kinds of questions were the police asking her? Would they come down here? He was just the way he always is, Mrs. Coles, I said. Then I added, because I couldn't help it, the police are here. Mom called them. Oh, Coles sounded doubtful. She thinks that's necessary? I guess. Through the open door, I saw a few of the neighborhood kids gathering on bicycles or skateboards. The kids for blocks around sense when a cop car comes, or the paramedics, or a fire truck. It's a kind of magic. I'd better go, I told Mrs. Coles. Tell Ophelia to call me if there's anything I can do, she said. I don't want to phone her in case I tie up her line. Okay. I couldn't think of anyone else to call after that, so I hung up, got my pretend sugar baby, and went outside. Ophelia and Mom and two policemen were standing in Mr. Ambrose's place. Seeing them there made him seem more missing than ever. Oh, Mr. Ambrose, where did you go? It wasn't because of me, was it? Say it wasn't. Slowly I moved closer. One of the policemen had something in his hand, and when I'd gone a few more steps I saw that it was a picture of Mr. Ambrose, taken when he was a bit younger, when he had more hair and his eyes were brighter behind his glasses. The smile in the picture was the same, though, and it made something catch in my throat. He was wearing gray pants and a blue knit shirt, Ophelia was saying in the strangest, tightest voice. I thought she sounded like the meringue on top of Mom's lemon pie, thin and crisp and ready to crack if you touched it. I think he had on his dark blue windbreaker, too, she said. I could go check if it's gone from his closet. She looked past them and then directly at me. Can you remember, Vicki? Did he have his windbreaker on when you saw him? I picked at the seam at the side of Babe Two's head, the one that was unraveling. I think he had it on, I said, and the policeman asked me when I'd seen him, and I had to go over all that again, leaving out the bad parts, making today seem like every other day. Well, it had been like every other day, except for the sweat on Mr. Ambrose's forehead, and the way his words and his chin had quivered. Can you remember what the two of you talked about? The policeman asked. Oh, nothing much. Just, I said about school, and he said about the weather. I looked down at my fake sugar baby. And about this, my class project. Nothing important. Everything's important, no matter how small, the policeman said. I shook my head and made myself look into his face. He had the scariest looking mouth under his mustache, the kind that probably never smiled. I had always thought it was silly to be afraid of policemen, but I was afraid now. Mrs. Coles and Mrs. Ting came cruising up in Mrs. Ting's car, and Mrs. Coles said they thought they'd drive around a bit and see if they could spot Mr. A. And was there any more news? That's what she called him, Mr. A. There wasn't any news, of course. But as soon as the policeman left, Mom said that she and I should go looking too. And we went back for our car, and I could tell how worried Mom was because she didn't even lock our front door. She never leaves our house unlocked. She and I drove all around. I remembered how frantically I'd searched for Babe earlier, but this was worse, much worse. We kept meeting Mrs. Ting's car and the Reverend Gish's. The Reverend and Mrs. Gish had joined the search too. We saw the cop car cruising slowly, soundlessly. Why don't they radio for a bunch more police? I asked. They need one of those code 9s or whatever they call them. I imagine they'd wait a while before they do anything like that, Mom said. Maybe 24 hours. 24 hours? That's terrible. Mom gave a little shrug. Probably most missing people come home on their own. Oh, I hope she was right. We saw Thunk on his bicycle then, and I told Mom, that's the boy from across the street. And Mom slowed up beside him. Thunk stopped with one foot on the curb. I'm looking for the old guy too, he said. You don't need to go along this street, 'cause I've checked it already and the next one down as well. Maybe you could go a couple of blocks the other way. Good idea, Mom said. Thunk was still wearing the bicycle chain across his chest, the chain he'd used to lock us together and pull us apart. It didn't seem to matter that much anymore. I wondered if he and Cynthia had left the library at the same time, or if she'd stayed with her friend Harry Hogan. And that didn't matter either. Is your heart going pit-a-pat? Mom asked as Thunk pedaled off. Not really, I said. Actually it was, but this time it wasn't for Thunk. Not that he wasn't as cute as ever, but I had more important problems. Over and over inside my head I chanted, Please, Mr. Ambrose, please. Maybe I was begging him to show up, or maybe to forgive me. It seemed now as if the whole neighborhood had joined in the search. Just about all our save the library people had turned out. We'd lower our windows and call to each other, and Mom would keep widening our routes. One time Mrs. Gish called from her car. I just can't imagine Mr. Ambrose not being at his post in the morning. I was just saying to the Reverend how much we all take that fine old man for granted. He's like our sunshine here in California. Lovely, but not appreciated enough. That's the way we humans are, the Reverend Gish said in a solemn way. A person is not missed until he's gone. I imagine that's the way the Reverend would sound when he was preaching a sermon, as if the end of the world was coming. It felt as if it was. The mournful way he'd said gone made me shiver. It was almost dark now, and the street lights came on, filling the world with their pale yellow glow. We're not going to find him, Mom said. Wherever he is, he's far from home. It's 20 minutes to 8. I guess we'd better give up, Vicki. We didn't talk as we drove back, and when we got to our house, we sat in the car, just sat and sat. It was as if going inside and shutting the door would shut Mr. Ambrose out forever. I don't know, Mom said wearily. Poor Ophelia. And poor you. She put her hand over mine. I know how much you love Mr. Ambrose. Do you remember when I was really little and I made him a chain of paper clips? I asked. It was before he got sick, remember? And he wore it to work the next day, hanging it around his neck on top of his tie. He looked so silly, and I told him it was okay to take it off and just wear it when he got home, but he wouldn't. I remember. And then it broke, and he lost all the clips. Remember how upset he was? I told him I'd make him a new one, but I never did. My stomach was beginning to hurt real bad. What will happen now? I mean, it's night, and he's somewhere. Where will he sleep? He's all alone, and there, honey, it's going to be all right, Mom said, pulling me close, cuddling me against her. Around us the neighborhood dogs howled, sensing the activity, exciting each other in a frenzy of yaps and yelps. I wanted to yelp with them. Do you know what we need? Mom asked. We need to go in and eat something. Oh, drat, did I forget to turn off the oven? The casserole will be burned black. But she had turned it off, and the casserole was cold again, so we opened a can of tuna and ate it with toast, and then Mom ran back up to Ophelia's to see if there was anything new. When the phone rang, I thought it was Mom calling and that she had something good to report. Mr. Ambrose was found. He was safe, and tomorrow he'd be back, smiling and waving and giving out his daily weather bulletin. I skidded across the kitchen floor to grab the receiver. Hello? Hello? There was silence, and then a voice, low and scary, said, It is night, and I am coming. What? I held the phone away, staring at it, and then said, Who is this? My heart hammered with fright. The Count has arisen from his coffin. He needs his blood, the dark, creepy voice said. The Count? Harry Hogan, is that you? Harry Hogan, is that you? He repeated. No, it isn't me. It isn't I, either. It's Dracula, and he's coming for that young babe. Babe? I didn't have Babe. I had a fake babe in her place, and I'd lied and cheated and blamed Mr. Ambrose, and now the whole world had toppled. The tears that I'd kept inside all day wouldn't stay there any more, and suddenly I was bawling and howling as loud as the dogs in the night. On the other end of the line I heard Harry Hogan's faraway voice. Vicki? Vicki? What's the matter? I was only kidding. Drac's not coming for Babe. Honest, I'm not even allowed to go out this late. And he's not hungry anyway. He had a hamburger for dinner. Vicki? He was still talking, and I was still howling as I hung up the phone. What if telling would somehow help find Mr. Ambrose? That policeman had said even the smallest thing was important, and I had a feeling this wasn't small. But if I told, everyone would know about me, about the way I really was. I couldn't stand it. I fumbled my sunglasses out of my pocket and put them on. Oh no, what should I do?